chaos coordinator, scoundrel scheduler, bar owner, you name it, I am here to talk about uh, Ghostbusters Afterlife, Ghostbusters 3 extensively, and how it kind of relates to other franchises that haven't been done right. Um, the second trailer was truly amazing. I thought the first trailer was to a lot of people. When you go see the first trailer, you miss Peter Venkman's voiceover. Call it fate, call it karma, but I believe that everything happens for a reason. That's in the first trailer. Also, you see Spangler's name on one of the uniforms. You see the uniforms. You see his spores, molds, and fungus collection. All this stuff. There's a reach back in that trailer to the original Ghostbusters. So when people are saying they need to do more, I'm like, what are you talking about? Go back and watch it again. Okay. Then we get the second one, and you get Janine. Okay. Annie Potts, who is freaking awesome. And I think that she's probably, she and Louis Tully are probably together or whatever. And she's probably trying to close the estate for Egon. And then we've got at the end, after seeing that thing that kind of looks like Slimer and this other ghost, and you see this thing coming up out of the mine shaft. And some people think it's Gozer. I don't know but there it's probably the town is probably built. Script doctor or Jesse Miller is probably right. The town is probably built on a Gozer worshiping temple, because even Ivo Shandor's name is on the first trailer. So this town is literally built on something that was there to pull in the bad, all the bad. Okay. And you can see it. And at the end, you've got Ray, he's still in his bookshop, and the phone rings after you see them. We're ready to believe you with the phone number. Phone rings, we're closed, and click. And then they came out with the toys. Everybody still alive is in this, and hopefully Rick Moranis will at least do some sort of cameo as Lewis, because you can't have Ghostbusters without Louis Tully. You can't. And you really couldn't without Peter Venkman, because he is Ghostbusters. I watched it twice yesterday, just to again, I've seen it. How many times have I seen that movie? It's literally my second favorite film franchise. I was so horrified. I didn't even know they were doing a all women's one until it hit the thing, and then Leslie Jones's attitude towards people saying it sucked. It's like, look, bitch, it's not because there's a bunch of freaking broads in it. It's because the movie fucking sucked. No one wants to go to a movie with a bunch of bitchy, angry, loudmouthed, obnoxious women in it. All right. You just don't. So, but there are some people out there that have reservations, and I understand some, but not to the point where you're literally going in front of, there's a channel with millions of viewers, millions of subscribers, who's like, I can't believe they do. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Okay, I saw no wokeness. Here's a question. If you can find me one woke thing in the movie or in the trailers, please, because I don't think anybody has a bigger radar for that than me. Nobody. In fact, nobody does. Nobody does. Okay, I didn't get any. We had to switch sexuality of this person. The little girl doesn't know if she's a boy or a girl. She's just a nerdy girl. It's like, you know what I'm saying? I saw a single mom who was struggling, who got, who inherited from her, maybe her father-in-law, because I look at her and I go, the woman playing the mom, and I'm like, knowing what I know about genetics, the idea of her being of Egon Spangler's daughter being that blonde, a Scandinavian blonde with cheekbones, I mean, I don't know. So I think she's probably the mother-in-law or the daughter-in-law. And the kids are Egon's grandkids, and they don't really know, they're disconnected from their grandfather. So they really don't know the history. So they're going to be their teacher, who's weirdly, I mean, I love Paul Rudd in this because he's got this, when you see him and he's completely shocked, he's got this look of holy shit. But it being Oklahoma, he's kind of a fish out of water in a way. There's a little bit big city in him. All right. Having been to Oklahoma and spent time there, even the teachers are not quite as, but I don't know. I mean, maybe, they do get guys from like whatever that show up there and just want to teach. What are you talking about, Bobby? So I didn't say anything that was shocking. Anyway, so I'm watching this and I'm watching people's reactions, and I think a vast majority of people are pretty much like, you know, and we know that Murray's in it, which is like, and I know he's got a bad reputation. I know that, but I think he's one of those people who likes to do his own thing. He doesn't like bullshit, and I think he sees Hollywood for what it is. I don't think he takes them seriously. I really, really don't. And the bitching and moaning, you know, George Lucas in the documentary Milius that I did not put on that. Oh yes, I did. I did put it on that yesterday's live. Basically says there's a narrative built up around you. I'm paraphrasing, whether it's real or not, and the people go with it. Okay, he was talking about John Milius, but you could say that about him. Okay, you could say that about Steven Spielberg. You can say that about Harrison Ford. All right. Okay, he's grumpy. Doesn't seem grumpy to me, except for when he's being harassed, or purposely harassed by people. But, when you hear people who know him, people who've casually run into him, he's a nice guy, you know? Don't like to be hounded. No one does. And so when I hear what people say about Bill Murray, I kind of take it with a grain of salt because I don't know him. None of us know him. And in fact, very few people know him. And I'm like, y'all gotta calm down. Okay? Y'all gotta calm down. My second cup of coffee today, because I went and had my yearly blood test, and I didn't get to. I had to fast for 12 hours. I thought the trailer was fine. I don't think we needed any comedy. I think if they showed any comedy, it would ruin the movie. Okay. We don't need any Murray smart ass comments, which is what made Ghostbusters. And we know that he basically ad-libbed a lot of that shit. Back off, man. I'm a scientist, So when I hear people bitching about that, I'm like, but there is a big YouTuber that was just appalled. I'm like, what wokeness? What is woke about a small town, a woman showing up with her two kids inheriting the mansion from her father-in-law for the kids. What is woke about that? Everybody gather around and try to figure that one out. Nothing, and I'll say something else because it was talked about yesterday on Midnight's Edge After Dark night stream. And yes, Hollywood does tend to take themselves too seriously. But I'm going to disagree strongly with what the person was saying. Jason Reitman, I think, sat down to watch Ghostbusters 2016 and literally almost threw up in his lap, his own lap. It's a horrible movie. It's fucking horrible. And it's a great big dump on the legacy that his father built with the late great Harold Ramis, with Dan Aykroyd, with Bill Murray, with Hey Vader Fanatic, with Rick Moranis, and with Annie Potts, and with everybody else who was in the movie. Okay, and I understand why he's taking it seriously. The guy grew up on the sets of both Ghostbusters. Okay. He was there watching Bill Murray ad lib and Dan Aykroyd ad lib. And, you know, the deadpan persona of Egon. And what a great thing it was. Ghostbusters isn't a comedy, nor is it a straight horror movie, nor is it a straight thriller or drama. It's all of them. It is literally a movie in its own genre. You can't qualify it in any place. And he knew going in there would be resistance from the woke folk. Wokistan is screaming. And other people who don't understand how you market things, there's not enough comedy. I got too much wokeness. It's like, I can't, you know what I'm saying? I just can't. And Dan Aykroyd continues to this day throwing shade at it. And I'm pretty sure if you ever wanted to see someone ever lose his shit and probably say something nasty, I guarantee you Bill Murray would. I guarantee you he said shit about that. You'll never hear it because he doesn't interview. He'll only interview if he absolutely has to, if it's in a contract. But he doesn't interview because he doesn't like to. But they saw that movie, they were appalled, and decided it is time to make a true sequel to Ghostbusters 1 and 2 with as many of the original cast as we can get. And they got everybody who was alive. And it's just too bad Harold Ramis passed away, because just seeing him, he was, just the deadpan way he portrayed Egon is going to be missed. But I think the little girl who's playing Phoebe, who's a little girl, is perfect deadpan, because there's a part in the second trailer where the teacher goes, "There's a whole town shaking and they're not near any fault lines." And the little girl goes, "Maybe it's the apocalypse." And the way she says it is just like Harold Ramis would present that. And it was awesome. Okay. So I don't see anything wrong with it. And if Jason Reitman is taking himself seriously, this is his father's legacy. And this is one of the greatest franchises of all time. He knows how important it is to get it right. Unlike others, which we will get into, okay? I am so looking forward to this. I can't tell you guys how much I look forward to this. And the reason why is it's going to be a complete 180 from everything that we've been getting from the other franchises. And I disagree strongly with what the person was saying about what he said in that interview with IGN. Because, again, he was talking about his dad. Really. He was talking about Dan Aykroyd and everybody else. That made his childhood. This is important that people understand this, okay? And I really am always kind of, and I gotta admit, there are people in the fandom who look for things to be concerned about. And it's like, why? Why? And it's a marketing ploy. You know, you go onto a panel and you're not ready. You know, you're looking and searching for something to be prepared for, to talk about. You know, you gotta understand when you walk into a panel, you're talking to, on that panel might actually be people who work in the film and TV industry. There are well-read geeks and nerds, mostly nerds. There are people that know a lot about what they're talking about. And you better be prepared. And don't talk down to them. That's another thing. You can't, I'm not saying bring yourself down to you know, street level, but don't talk down to people, okay? You know, I've got a BA in history. I'm seriously still thinking about, and I actually came really close to pulling the gun on a master's degree from Harvard. And then I said no because the money was like, I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna spend that much money in history. And I don't like academics. I don't like academics as people unless they can actually talk like normal adults. I have seen academics brought to their knees by my own father who didn't graduate high school. You know, and I'm like, you need to stop talking to people like that. You need to loosen up. You're not in a conference. You're with a bunch of guys who love Ghostbusters and they're flipping out. You know, and you should try to be a fan of it, okay? I felt, you know, and that's my thing. Okay, that's my thing. And you know, so I'm listening to this, and I didn't hear anything in what Reitman said that was concerning. Again, the impetus for making this Ghostbusters Afterlife was the bullshit Feige made. And that's why, you know, Eastland, I know all that, okay? You know, and that's why they did what they did. Howdy, Matt Piranha. And that's why the movie's being made. And that's why there's so much excitement. I mean, somebody on Twitter is going, they act like it's a Star Wars trailer. Let me explain. Considering everything that Reitman has said, that Ivan Reitman has said, that Dan Aykroyd has said, and then you compare it to the fucking bullshit that went on at Lucasfilm with Hackosaurus himself, JJ, that bitch Kennedy, and that little fucking punk, Ryan Johnson, and you're saying we're acting like this is a Star Wars trailer? There's a reason why. It's because the people who created the first two movies are finally back to fix what was broken by somebody who had no fucks to give when he made 2016. Okay, this is a direct slap there's a direct slap Again, this is a direct slap against everybody who has had anything to do with Star Trek Discovery, Dr. Whovis, Star Wars Story Group, and Kevin Smith and He-Man. Okay? All right? And it's literally, why wouldn't they do this? If it was my father's legacy, I would be fighting for it. Okay? I would be out there going, hey, we need to revisit this and fix what was broken. And we've got everybody everybody but one is still here, so let's do it. Okay? And it looks to me like they came up with a great script. It's in a different location, but the feel feels like it's the same. And there's an air of mystery. And the kids were perfectly cast. I mean, they both look like different versions of Harold Ramis. They really, really do. The little girl actually looks like one of my nieces when she was that age. That fluffy hair and that skinny, sort of geeky look. Cute as a bug. And I'm like going, I think this is going to be great. And it's a direct middle finger fuck you to Feige and Wokistanians. All right. So what can be learned? What can be learned? You bring back the people who made it. Glenn rocks A, you're wrong, okay? And I'm going to say this once. You're here late. First off, you're not going to see the comedy in the trailer because then it won't be comedy anymore. The only reason why you saw it in the trailer for 2016 is it's the only thing that was worth seeing in the movie. And then by the time you got into the movie, it wasn't funny anymore because it was back in the context in the movie, okay? Second of all, action. Gee, nothing happened that was action worthy in 1 or 2. Chasing Slimer around the hotel. Getting chased by the ghost out of the library. Sigourney Weaver being possessed by Zool. The firehouse melting down after they turn off the containment unit. Going up to where Gozer is and taking it on. Okay? There was no action. You do realize that the first movie was actually supposed to be a planet jumping, dimension jumping, ghost hunting movie. And it wasn't exactly supposed to be funny. And then when Belushi died, they changed it. All right. Actually, Slimer is a tribute to Belushi. Okay. There you go. How's that one? You're not going to see the comedy. All right. They gave you a little comedy with that little teaser of the little Stay Puft Marshmallow Men at the grocery store. And then you see Paul Rudd running away, being chased by Zool or Vince Clortho or whichever dog it was. You know, the trailer was perfect. You got to make it so people want to go see it because you know it's going to be funny. As I said before, then we can get back to what I was talking about. Ghostbusters isn't a comedy. It's listed as one, but it's not. It is also not really a mystery, and it is. It is also not... Yeah, it was a practical comedy, and it came out in the lines. It is a thriller, a drama, a horror movie, and a fucking action movie. And a comedy, okay? It's all those things. It has its own genre because it can't fit into any one thing. They put it in comedy because whatever. So what can we learn by this? If you decide to make a franchise film, a sequel, you would probably behoove and be wise to include and have the original people actually make it. All right, be producers if they're not going to direct. Be the writers, okay? It would actually be wise to get people. You're right, old redneck nerd. It would be wise to remember that legacy. Where am I going with this? Where was George Lucas when they made The Force Awakens? We got Larry Kasdan, who had absolutely no respect for anything that George ever wrote. Any story. He always thinks when you hear him talk that he could tell it better. We have to kill somebody. That's not what George was about. Okay. Sorry, Larry, but you're wrong. Where was George Lucas when they were writing? Larry is a guy who believes his own, hey, Mexican Iron Man, who believes his own press, kind of like Paul Feige. When we're talking about Ghostbusters and people saying that, Hollywood takes itself too seriously and uses what Jason Reitman said in the IGN interview, it's like, again, here's what he was doing. He's trying to fix what Feige broke. This is his father's legacy. His father, incidentally, is also a producer of the movie. Okay? The mistake Disney made was not having George come in as producer and creative consultant over this last trilogy. Now, here's something about George Lucas. He has an overview for a script. Ivan Reitman, I have an overview for a script. You're going through it, you've got your writer there, you're all talking about it, and things get changed. Okay, George was never Mr. It has to be this way. His vision was that way, but telling the story could be done in a way that, what in the world? That's weird. Could be done in a way that, it tells a story, but done in a different way. Some of George's ideas at first glance are like, and I'm sure, but also Larry Kasdan at the end of Return of the Jedi. Luke should pick up the mask and say, "Now I am Vader." Really? George was like, no, that's not going to happen. George was right. You've got to go through with your overview and your notes what can be done, what makes logical sense in the story, and what will get the fans intrigued. And none of that happened with the Star Wars sequel trilogy. There was no world building. There were no new aliens except for that slug thing. And it's like, that's a mechanic. We had the ubiquitous, cantina scene at Maz Kanata's, and it was like, we went from A New Hope with the cantina scene, first thing, and everyone's like, wow. Then we went to The Bounty Hunters, which you had everything under the sun on the deck of the Executor. Then we went to Jabba's Palace. We didn't necessarily need to repeat the cantina scene verbatim in TFA, and yet they did it. That's what they did. Because these people don't know how to world build. Okay, Taco Donna could have been very interesting. You should have, but you know what? Why didn't we have Narshada? Why didn't we have that? I'd like to see Narshada. I'd like to see a live version of Narshada. I'd like to see I would have liked to have seen Coruscant in a different light. I would have liked to have seen a lot of the planets that we never got to see. Deveron, Ryloth. We never got to see these. Why? Because these people don't know how to world build. And they can't even create their own. We get Jakku. It might as well call it Tatooine. That's what it was. Takodana, Naboo, with all the lakes. Hosnian Prime, big fucking deal we saw for 3.5 seconds and it was gone. There's a whole sequence about Hosnian Prime that they cut out, by the way. I just want you guys to know that when you watch the weapon coming in, you see all the looks on everybody's face. And it's like, who are these people and why do we care? Again, instead of doing what Jason Reitman did, which is, to me, it looks like he's glorifying what his father created, what Aykroyd and Ramis and his father created. They took this galaxy, JJ took this galaxy and turned it into a teeny tiny little living space where a planetary system could set off a weapon that billions of miles away, another planetary system can see going shitting across the sky, hitting another primary system, another system billions of miles away. You see the problem? No respect for legacy, and they didn't bring back the people that they should have. That the original cast, who had no control over the story. You know, people can sit there and bitch and moan at me about, well, Harrison Ford wanted to die. Again, I'm going to go back to what George Lucas said about John Milius. There's a narrative built up around a person. And I don't know, I think he probably is. That whether it's true or not, goes with them everywhere they go for the rest of their lives. The thing about Harrison Ford is that narrative goes everywhere with him. I don't know what he really wanted. No one knows except for the people involved. And they went out of their way to make it a lazy, bullshit death that was more fit for fucking Palpatine or Jabba than a hero. It is not that was going to happen. It is fucking how it happened. You do not handle it that way. Again, staring at Larry Kasdan going, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You did it wrong. No one put their arms around Harry's back and said, you're going to be here till episode 8. We need you for episode 8. Okay. What I would have done is have him face off and then dipshit walk away and not be able to do what he did. Then you have a problem. Then actually Ben Swolo actually becomes an attractive figure who is completely confused about what's going on. Breaking up Han and Leia? What the fuck? No. Let's make it relevant. Nah. No. Again, what did you guys fucking forget? It's a fairy tale. Fairy tales aren't relevant. They're timeless. These movies, they make goddamn sure would never age well. Just like Paul Feige's Ghostbusters 2016. 2015, TFA will not age well. TLJ won't age well, and it isn't. The Rise of Skywalker should have had a laugh track to the whole fucking thing. If they'd have done that one thing that I mentioned, I could almost forgive the lack of world building and lack of character development in Rey. Because then you have character development going on with a bad guy who's not really that bad. Okay? And he walks away from something he was commanded to do, and he didn't do it. Okay? So, you get to episode 8, then you have the dark moments. Then you have the dark moments. Then you can really start getting into everything else. And, Star Killer Base. Why do we have to have a ginormous Death Star? That's creative. That's something the fans have never seen before. One thing George always says, you gotta give the fans something they've never seen before. All right, I could forgive him the second Death Star in episode 6, but I can't forgive JJ a third one, and that's exactly what Star Killer Base, which incidentally was actually the planet that the Jedi got their kyber crystals from. It's literally, I guess, from Disney's and the story group's fucking writing, supposed to be Ilium or Ilum. Think about that. Think about how dumb that is. I can't fathom the reasoning behind any of this. I can't. I don't think anybody can. Okay? When you look at what they're doing with Ghostbusters Afterlife and the excitement that's being built up, I mean, I shouldn't be more excited for this than I would be for a Star Wars movie. I think the only thing I'm more excited for is Indy 5. And that's getting shit on by ageists and negative assholes. Okay? And Harrison Ford, I mean, I'm going to tell you guys something. The guy's riding around on a bicycle all over Mayfair. If his shoulder was really that bad, he wouldn't be able to do that. What I think is going on is that they're going to use the deep fake stuff and told him you chill yourself until we get back to the studios in London. And it's a studio saying this because of the insurance, because they don't want him to get worse. Okay? But there's no fucking way a man with a shoulder injury will be riding miles and miles and miles on an Italian racing bike or trail bike or whatever that is with a shoulder injury if it was that bad. Okay? So all y'all just slow your roll and calm your heels. Because it looks like to me like it's the insurance company and the studio going no to him. So, and they got that Shamook guy that did the deep fake for Luke, and he's done actually deep fake for Han Solo, and they're fabulous. I'm pretty sure that they've got this figured out. But back to what I was talking about. When you've got a franchise that I shouldn't be excited about Ghostbusters Afterlife as I would be for a real Star Wars sequel. That I should be for this Indiana Jones project. But I am. Why? Because I trust the people behind it. I grew up with these guys. No one made me laugh harder than Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. Okay, no one. And Harold Ramis. I mean, Stripes. That movie is so funny. It can't even be. I mean, that movie's great. And these guys mean as much to me as a lot of others. Okay? I trust them on this. I trust Ivan Reitman. I trust his son. They're not going to screw us over. Why would they? And I don't get excited about anything that JJ's doing with Star Wars, if he was still, or anybody else except for Jon Favreau, because I trust Jon Favreau. Because when I tell you something about Jon Favreau, when he walked in 1977, sat down and watched Star Wars for the first time, he walked out feeling the same way I did. I want to do that when I grow up. He was inspired in a way, and a lot of these young filmmakers, his age, my age, are. Okay, they don't get the recognition because they probably don't kiss ass. And, Favreau keeps his mouth shut, he keeps his head down and works. And from what I've heard, he is the best boss you could have on a set for an actor. Okay? Brendan Wayne, John Wayne's grandson, who actually plays Mando in the suit, loves him. Okay? That says a lot to me. Okay? We need more people like that. I trust Jon Favreau. I trust Dave Filoni. Anybody else there, I don't. And the reason why is because the only thing that should be on your mind when you're writing a Star Wars novel, comic book, or script is Star Wars. It's what I think you're right, Lost Knowledge. It is what makes Star Wars, and what can we do to work with it and to make it and to continue the story in the way that George wanted. Okay. That's respecting legacy, that's respecting the timelessness of the story. And it is what Jason Reitman has done. Okay. It is what Dan Aykroyd has done. It is what Ivan Reitman has done. It is not what Kennedy's Lucasfilm has done until Jon Favreau walked in with a very simple idea, talked to Dave Filoni, they presented it to Bob Iger, and Iger says, here's an MCU type budget, run with it. Okay. That's what they did. That's what they did. Okay. I trust them. I can't trust anybody who, every time they open up their mouth, it's got to be political. Like, and it's really funny when I was watching the Comic-Con Zoom conference that the Stoned Republic authors had. They all took themselves way too seriously. They were overconfident, and they all know that this publishing initiative is a dumpster fire. I have no problem telling any of them to their faces that your book is going to end up at Ollie's Good Stuff Cheap in 2 years. Because there's our shelves full of Star Wars comics and novels at my local Ollie's right now. And there's another Ollie's across the river over in Harrisburg I know has them too. Okay? No one wants disrespectful crap. No one, like Stephen Walton says, we don't want your politics and our fucking entertainment. It's simple. I'm one of these people, I don't give a shit what your politics are. But if you're going to sit down, I was running Lucasfilm, and I tell them straight to their faces, I don't want to hear any woke stuff. I don't want to see you guys on Twitter attacking the fans. In fact, I think it would behoove all of you, unless you have a blue check, to get off of Twitter and stay off. Get rid of your accounts, leave it. Okay? Leave it. You're here to work. You're not here to tweet on the company's dime. Okay? And no one gives a damn about your opinion about anything. Okay? We're doing Star Wars. We're not writing, a manifesto. Okay? That's what I would tell them. And they should know that. It's not that I disagree with free speech, I do. But when it hurts a company's bottom line. Okay? Like, all right, yesterday, I was on Instagram. And I think Mike, Mexican Iron Man, if you're here, you'll appreciate this. And I'm a huge Sopranos fan. But Michael Imperioli went off his rocker and started attacking Donald Trump and Donald Trump's voters, calling them Nazis and racists and all the rest of this shit. How do you lose fans? By calling them names. by doing that. How do you lose people? By assuming someone is something they're not because they don't agree with you politically. By attacking a majority of Americans, not a small minority, not half of the country, more than half the country, calling them Nazis, ists, and phobes because they voted for a guy that you thought was one of you, and he ends up being far more liberal than you are. My definition of a liberal in a secular sense is somebody who doesn't give a shit who you sleep with, doesn't care what color you are, how talented are you, and how much do you want to work. What are you willing to do to be successful? And if you, and again, are you talented enough to do it? What do you bring to the table as a human being? But instead, we've got these crazy, lunatic actors, and Imperioli hasn't been in shit for a while, so he goes on Twitter and has a rant, and I went off on him. I'm sick of it. Okay, this is not good for the film industry in America that this is happening. And it happened a lot over the last 8 years with Lucasfilm. Okay, and they're reaping the whirlwind, these people that did that. Pablo, his wife, all of them. You can't walk around calling people names because they didn't like a product you created. You can't get mad at somebody for saying, I thought you were a Star Wars fan, but what you did here in this novel proves you're not. See, it's not what a person says, it's what they do that matters. My dad always said it's not what a man says, it's what he does. But it's to me, it's what a woman says. It's what a woman, good morning. It's what a woman, Abunas, does, and not just what she says. This is a lot about what she thinks. And hey, Echo Base, and how she, feels about things. It says a lot about a person. And when you hire somebody who is apathetic, half-assed, and instead of, hiring them on merit, they're hired because they fit a list, they fit a quota. And they come up with something half-assed, like Daniel Jose Older's Last Shot. Go and look at Christina Ariel's tweets about white people. I did a video on it, and I did a lovely musical rendition at the end. They weren't hired because they're good at their jobs. They're hired because they're something. Okay? Try not to be something, try to be somebody. Okay? It don't matter. All right, I got some of my favorite people here. I think Mike the Mexican Iron Man's here. Abunas is here, and Coach is here. Hi! And Revan, and I love it. Anyway, so I'm like, I look at myself as being a classical liberal. I don't give a shit if you're red, black, white, yellow, purple, or chartreuse spots. What do you bring to the table? Are you a good person? I don't care if you're gay or straight. I don't, I said, I've been past all that for years. Everybody has. But God damn it, here we go again. Okay? And so you got this going on with Lucasfilm, and they're about to be spanked. They're about to be spanked by Ivan Reitman and Jason Reitman over Ghostbusters. Paul Feig is basically about to be spanked by them. And the reason why is because they're doing it right. They know what the fans want. They know, Jason Reitman knows, as I said before, the legacy of what his father built. He was on the sets of both Ghostbusters. The idea that they got everybody but one back to make this, and if Rick Moranis shows up even for a cameo, I'm gonna be like this: Lewis, can somebody open the door? I, they're all about to be spanked. And if this movie is successful, I'm gonna tell you guys something. Come here, real close. The wokeness will die. Okay? That movie will make a lot of money at the theaters. I am going to be sitting my tight white German ass down in the middle row with my soda and my popcorn, and I'm gonna watch and I'm gonna have fun. I honestly think that's what's gonna happen. And people said this is gonna be full circle. And it's not just gonna be full circle for Ghostbusters, it's gonna be full circle for everything. Because you bet your sweet butt, Bob Chapek's watching. And he already knows what the fans want with Star Wars. When deepfake Luke, de-aged Luke showed up, they were all like, it broke the goddamn servers at Disney. Okay, that means something. They know that. And just watching the twisting and turning and gnashing of teeth going on with people like Pablo Hidalgo on Twitter, when he said to the guy, after 20 years, I don't have any plans, and I don't know what hers are, her being Kennedy, that was cut and dried. He's done. He may not be officially done yet, but he's gone and he knows it. When you got Taika Waititi saying, my movie is on the shelf right now because Lucasfilm is restructuring, that's big. Okay, when you've got, Leslie Forehead, Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant, doing a tap dance trying to get attention for her acolyte dumpster fire, she doesn't want it to get canceled. Patty Jenkins doesn't want to see Rogue Squadron get canceled. We shall see, but from my, 30,000 foot view, Bob Chapek knows where the money's coming from, and it ain't from that shit. Okay? He knows it's coming from Favreau and Filoni. And regardless if you like everything that Filoni did or not, and I don't like everything, I could use less of the Martez sisters. They didn't have to be in Bad Batch at all, but, I can tolerate it. There's a certain level of bullshit I think everybody can tolerate, but Bad Batch is fine. I don't have a problem with it. It gets boring in a few places, but to me, the whole series just looks like filler till we can start getting into Boba Fett territory, which I think is going to be slamming. I really, really do think it's just going to be fucking awesome. And then we've got, from what I've heard, and I think this is true, Mandalorian 3 is already filming. And I'm a Star Wars fan who enjoys Gina Carano, thinks what happened to her was wrong. She doesn't come back. All right. I'm a Star Wars fan first. And there was a show written around her. Maybe they could rewrite it around another character, whatever. But it's up to her now. Okay, it's up to her now. And maybe they've already got a deal going and we haven't heard. Cameron Pasha said they're probably not going to bring her back until long after Kennedy's been gone because it would embarrass her. I'm going to be brutally honest. If you go to yesterday's live stream and you watch the John Milius documentary, and you actually see these people who are the creme de la creme of Hollywood talking about John Milius, and they canceled him for Red Dawn, by the way. He was more liberal than they are. Okay? He's a libertarian. You've got Oliver Stone bitching and moaning about him being a libertarian, and Oliver Stone thinks he's a liberal, and he's not a liberal. He's a fascist. You know, and that's what they are. But when you've got Steven Spielberg, and this is after they talk about John Milius, he had a stroke, and it was really severe. Sadly, because he's fucking brilliant. He's one of the most brilliant screenwriters of all time. He wrote Apocalypse Now. The Captain Quint's soliloquy in Jaws about the USS Indianapolis, he dictated that to Steven Spielberg over the phone. It was 10 pages. Robert Shaw took it and whittled it down to 5 pages because he couldn't remember all of it. He was like, and Robert Shaw was a brilliant playwright, so he knew good dialogue. He went and he helped fix things like the Clear and Present Danger. He was the one that wrote all of Sean Connery's big speeches in Red October. He did the first Conan the Barbarian, and then they didn't let him do the next ones, which was bullshit. He wrote and directed The Wind and the Lion, which that movie, despite Sean Connery and a Scottish accent playing a Moroccan Barbary pirate, is so good I can't quantify it. Brian Keith as Theodore Roosevelt is mind-blowing. He is so good. He should have won an Academy Award for it. He made me cry when I first saw it. Or not like the first time I saw it. It was like a few years ago. That's how good he is in this movie. Candice Bergen was brilliant. John Milius gets turned into a pariah because he writes a movie about what if we had a nuclear war? What if the U.S. was invaded by the Soviet Union and others? What would happen? Because everybody was talking about it. I remember very well, we were all scared to death. The rhetoric on both sides is pretty high. We didn't know everything that the president at the time knew, because basically the strategy that Ronald Reagan took was, we'll push him so hard we tip him over the edge. And that's what they did. And in 1989, the wall fell, just as Reagan predicted it would. And now you know the rest of the story. But in 1984, when that movie came out, everybody was really upset. And I loved it. I mean, it was, Patrick Swayze, the first time I'd ever seen him. And he actually ended up buying the horse that he rode in that movie. Milius was treated like shit. But to watch how Spielberg almost started crying when he was talking about what happened to John, it kind of tells you these people are human and that they have relationships just like the rest of us. Now, granted, both Oliver Stone, whom I can't stand, I wouldn't be in the same room with that guy, and I got a story about him that's going to blow your mind, and Kathleen fucking Kennedy are in it. Despite that, you get a sense that these guys were all in the same boat, but Lucas went off on his own, very independent filmmaker, on his own, made the most successful film franchises in history. Milius, writer, director, but not an anachronism, more like an iconoclast. People were intimidated by him because he's huge. He's a big man. He's a great big Hungarian dude. And I know a few. Big guy. Built like a bear. They didn't know how to take him because his personality was big too. And very opinionated about everything. But of all of them, Spielberg included, he is a better writer, and the only storyteller who is just as good is George. Okay? That's it. And the reason why Spielberg got to where he got is because he played the game. And he knew that. He knows that. Milius wouldn't. And they went after him. He wanted to make the movies he wanted to make. And the powers that be at the time, and I'm going to say the Barbra Streisands, yada, 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 and Streisand is a bigot on steroids, couldn't deal with it. Couldn't deal with it. And the critics couldn't deal with it. And, it doesn't matter back then how successful the movie was. You push it too far one way and they'll freak out. Now, there are guys within the system that I think are every bit in Milius's league as far as his politics are. Clint Eastwood, Sylvester Stallone. That speech he gives in that last Rocky movie he made to his son, it's not about how hard you get it, it's about getting up. And he goes off on him, and it's beautiful. That's pure John Milius. That's pure manly man. This is what life is about. Milius wrote about that. He wrote about the very essence of being a human being and the brutality of it at times. And they couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with it. They still can't. This is why we've got the woke folk running around. They can't deal with it either. We've got people in the world that wander around getting upset and running around looking for their safe spaces because someone called them a little bitch on Twitter. All right? Or someone said, I disagree with you because A, B, and C. They get hurt. Their fifis get hurt so bad, they scream and complain and act like they've been bullied and they haven't. Someone else's opinion shouldn't matter. Again, I go back to Michael Imperioli, and I ate his lunch yesterday. I was pissed. You don't call your fellow Americans those names at all because they disagree with you politically. Okay, by the way, when you peel back the onion, you find there's very little that people actually really disagree with. And it comes down to personalities and fifis. Well, fuck your fifis, okay? Fuck your fifis. I have no fucks to give, all right? I just don't. I'm done. I'm done dealing with this shit. And ultimately, that's why, hey, Maze, Twitter was having a meltdown yesterday about the Ghostbusters trailer. Because, what about 2016? Who gives a shit? No one watched it. Well, where's this and where's it? Who cares? Okay? Again, Ghostbusters exists as its own genre. Okay? It is a horror movie, a drama, a thriller, and a comedy. And the comedy is actually incidental to what's going on in the movie. It really, really is. I watched it twice yesterday because I was so excited about the trailer. And the comedy is almost an afterthought. But because it works so well, and it's, you're watching the beginning where the lady is, the librarian is down in the stacks. She gets chased out by the ghost. And then you segue into Peter Venkman doing that experiment with the floppy hair kid and that blonde. And he's totally fucking with the fluffy hair kid. That's not a nice guy. But it's funny as shit. Okay, it's funny. Because you know what he's doing. I remember, was that Brian Young, our favorite Star Wars insider writer, bitching about how much he hates Peter Venkman. And it's like, why? He is a predator. It's like, no, he's a guy. He's a player and a guy. Okay? That's what they do. Okay? You can't deal with that. Just bubble wrap yourself, go sit in a corner, and shut up. Okay? Because it's funny as shit. And then we get into more. And then we get into the ad-libbing. And you can tell a lot of it's ad-libbed. You can tell. but it works. The comedy wasn't written, it was just instinctive by the actors. Yeah, you couldn't keep them unscripted. I don't think they wanted to. So when you're looking at Ghostbusters, you got to look at it as its own genre, and and that's the thing that just makes it awesome. You know, what they've done is they've built a whole new world to go along with the franchise. Again, world building, something that J.J. Abrams and Ruin Johnson know absolutely nothing about. Nothing. Zero. Minuscule. Nothing about. Okay? Absolutely nothing. They can sit there and defend it. There was no world building in the Solo flick. I know that for a fact from what I saw, and I went to the high seas to watch parts of it, and I rolled through it just like I did with Tross, and I was like, first off, whatever. You guys know how I feel about that. But in the end, I really think, because then I'm going to let you guys go because I've been on for a while. In the end, what I think is happening is this. I think Ghostbusters Afterlife is going to be a success. Okay? I saw the toys and I'm like, I need. I think it's going to be a huge success too. I think Sony hit it out of the park by letting Ivan Reitman, Jason, and Dan Aykroyd do what they do. And what they do is brilliant. And getting everybody back, including Bill Murray. And I can't wait. Again, I shouldn't be feeling this way about Ghostbusters. But this is kind of like seeing Luke show up at the end of Mandalorian. All right, they fucked him up and everybody else so bad. Seeing him show up at the end of Mandalorian was like, and this is going to be the same way after they fucked up Ghostbusters with those screeching women. And to the people who were out loud wondering about Jason and what he was saying in the IGN interview, and I'm gonna let you guys go. It's his father's legacy, and his father worked on it. That's all you gotta know. That's all you gotta know. And they're doing everything right. What Lucasfilm did wrong. What Disney did wrong with Star Wars. Okay? And that's exactly... I called it. Ask Mazarus. I called it. I called it. And I called it months ago. I called it last summer. A year ago, last spring. And that's it. I said the only Jedi that could possibly show up that would make sense, because we've seen Ahsoka, we'll see Ahsoka probably. Why would they bring Cal Kestis in? Ezra, why? I mean, it didn't. The only one that makes sense would be Luke. And lo and behold, there's Red 5. And I'm like, Maze was like, Steph, And I'm like, and I remember waking up at like 3 and looking at the messages going, I'll get up early, I'll get up at 6 and watch it. So I got up, let the dog out, made myself a cup of coffee, made breakfast, sat down and watched it, and I was like, I knew it was him. I mean, I knew it. I knew it was going to be him. I knew it. And I was glad I was right, but it was the only thing. I know you did. It was so fun. That was the funniest thing. I was like, I almost got up to watch it. I almost did. And now it looks like we're going to get him showing up more with the deep fake guy that did it right. I wouldn't doubt that artist is working on Indy 5. And again, we've got Harrison Ford riding around on his Italian road bike like he's fine. And, I theorize, and I'm assuming that the studio said, you're not doing any more action scenes. Okay, and that's what I think is going on. Now, according to sources, they're back in England filming at a big mansion. So we'll see. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I gotta go. I think I ruffled feathers a little bit. Whatever. But anything goes on today, it's Wednesday. I'll be around. I'm gonna be in the Midnight's Edge chat, in the morning chat, to watch, to see what goes on. And there's gonna be more about Ghostbusters 3 and or Afterlife. And I can't, I shouldn't be this excited for Ghostbusters, but look what they did. Look what they did to Star Wars, and what they're not doing, and what they're trying to do in fixing what Feige broke with Ghostbusters. And now looking what Favreau's trying to do to fix Star Wars. Steph, signing out. I'll see you guys around the galaxy. Behave, be well, and